And our very special guest today on Absolutely Famous is world champion in Super Rugby or Picky winning women's coach, Whitney Hansen. Whitney, lovely to have you on the show and thank you so much for your time. Gee, what a few months it's been for you.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind.
Yeah, you would never have dreamed of that a year ago, would you? I mean, you'd be secretly hoping, but...
Yeah, no, definitely the Matatu Super Picky dream was real a year ago. But yeah, I think the combination of being away and being part of World Cup and that whole experience and winning that and then coming home and being able to do this as well has been pretty special.
Was it difficult for you sort of emotionally to switch off from what happened with the Black Ferns and all the hype that went with that to Super Rugby or Picky? Do you have to sort of get another frame of mind like the girls do, I suppose?
Yeah, look, I think we were lucky when we came back and had a good break and some time to just reflect and recover, I guess. And then, yeah, once you hit the ground running and you get immersed into the super space, it's pretty full on. So it's hard to be distracted by anything else, to be fair.
Yeah, I bet. Well, just looking back at the World Cup, I mean, it's a game changer, isn't it, for the women's game? I mean, I've never watched more replays of a game than the women's final, and I don't normally watch a lot of replays, but that was one of the great games of all time.
Yeah, it was pretty special, and I think to have the fan base that it had there, and I guess not even the people that were just there, but the TV viewership that it had and the people that got in behind it across the whole event was pretty special.
You would have no doubt lapped up all the knowledge by Wayne Smith would have imparted on the team. I mean, he's a super coach. He coached with your dad, of course, in their successful World Cups too. And how did you find him? The girls obviously accepted him pretty quickly.
Yeah, look, he had a really clear vision of the way that he saw the Black Ferns playing, and he did a really amazing job of implementing that. And I think alongside Mike Cronin there, that was pretty special too, especially for me. And being as a set piece coach and getting to work with him was amazing as well.
So were they mentoring you and the other assistant Wesley Clark as well along the way?
Yeah, well, I think Cronin's been a mentor for me forever, really. Like when I first took my job with Canterbury FBC, initially it wasn't in set piece, so I had talked to the head coach about coaching a different area, and then just as things work out, someone got a different job somewhere else, and he came back to me and said, "Oh, would you be happy to do scrum and line out?" And I said yes, and then got off the phone and rang Chrono in a panic, and he sort of invited me around to his place. And yeah, it was supposed to be a meeting for about half an hour. I think it went for 2.5. There's been many meetings since. So yeah, he's always been an awesome mentor, and yeah, Smithy was great in that space too. And both Wes and I really appreciated having them in there and the learnings that we took away from it.
I think it was significant that Wayne Smith and also Sir Graham Henry, who was with you in Camp 2 during the World Cup, they said it was one of the most memorable experiences of their entire rugby lives. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think the women's space is really different, and I think that part of that was that they loved being in there and being with an amazing group of people, and yeah, the girls loved having them in there too.
Of course, there's household names in the Black Ferns now, isn't there? You've got Ruby Tui, of course, who is front and centre of the PR. She's brilliant. Renee Holmes, the entire forward pack. So are the girls coping all right with that? Or I'd no doubt they'll be enjoying the bit of limelight.
Yeah, I think the time post-World Cup was probably the busiest couple of weeks that any of them have ever had. Anyone wanted them round to say hello or sign something. But, yeah, I think they're all pretty humble, and I think there's a piece where it did blow up pretty quickly, and it's exciting to see people recognise the hard work that goes into those spaces. But I think that'll always be a really important piece of being a Black Fern is humility and staying grounded and not getting too caught up in that and just continuing to be yourself.
You ladies are a publicity dream because you're actually you're able to be yourself. You're not, whether that's because you haven't been sort of conditioned by media trainers. Long may that continue. It's just you're able to be open and, show your personalities.
Yeah, I think it's probably hard for in the men's space. The scrutiny that the game is under, whether media or just the general public, and I don't think the women's game's in that space yet. But as it continues into that space, I hope we don't lose that either.
Of course, your dad, so Steve Hansen, he's won World Cups, he's won Super Rugby. Has he been a mentor? I'm sure he has been along the way. He'd be so proud of you.
Yeah, he's very proud. He got a bit teary after the final. But it didn't take long after he'd said congratulations. He told me I've got 2 more to get to beat him.
Yeah.
But yeah, he is a phenomenal support, and on the phone to him sort of weekly and sometimes across World Cup it was daily. So he's been awesome.
Yeah, because way back in the 80s, I worked at the Belfast Freezing Works when your dad was a meat inspector there, and of course your granddad, Des Hansen, was a legend of coaching too for the Maris Club. No doubt granddad would be pretty proud of you too.
Yeah, it was. It's a really special piece of legacy that I am proud of. I think being like a 3rd generation Canterbury coach is something that's really important to me, and not here with us anymore, and can't see it, but I'm sure wherever he is, he's pretty proud of what we're doing.
So at what stage did you go from player to coach? What sparked your interest? Was it through dad and your granddad, or was it just something you just you wanted to do?
Yeah, I always loved the tactical and technical detail of the game, and I came to rugby late. I didn't start playing until I was 21, and I only really did that because I wanted something else to do at uni. Had played football all my life, and so just fell in love with the game, and have always had a genuine passion of being part of people's journey, and being a teacher. It was sort of my role outside of or before coaching and doing this in a professional sense. So I think the two of those things and just came together, and it was a perfect match. And then Kendra Coxedge hit me up and asked if I wanted to coach some age group stuff, and loved that so much, and have never looked back since. So
it's amazing. You're doing a wonderful job. And of course, there's a bit of a lull now for the Black Ferns. What are you doing to keep everybody tuned up and on song for then? You've got I think it's the Four Nations, and then the Laurie O'Reilly Cup against the Aussies starting over here in Brisbane.
Yeah, well, the Ferns will all go back into the hubs now, and there'll be an expectation that they are back training today across the country, and they'll do that for a couple of weeks, and then the first camp is in 3 weeks' time. So yeah, they'll be looking forward to that.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, we're all looking forward to their first game. The other thing is there areas, what's the main area you'd like to see improve in the women's sport? Now that Super Rugby's finished and the World Cup's over, is there an area that your coaches have identified that needs improving more than others?
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be a whole new coaching group in that space, and part of that will be the Black Ferns played a style of game that was indicative of Smithy, and the way I guess like New Zealand rugby DNA, and taking advantage of some of the natural skill set that we have. So the next piece probably will be in and around is, where do we go next? What does it look like to where we build on all of those things that we were really great at World Cup, and how do we be better at some of the things that we weren't? And I think there's still a long ways to go in the set piece area for us, and I guess to develop depth in some of the positions will be massive. And then looking at how else do we stay ahead of the game and continue to be world leading, because that's how you stay at the top, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Speaking about the Super Rugby or Picky final, I mean, the Chiefs Manawa went in there raging hot favourites, and after about 15, 20 minutes, you're probably thinking, geez, what's going to happen here when you're trailed by 19 points? What was the turnaround? What happened? I mean, I could see what happened, but what mentally something
Yeah.
must have switched on.
No, look, I think we had a game plan going in, and we didn't play it in the first sort of 20 or within their 20 points. But the girls knew and had faith in and around what we were trying to do. And we've got some great leaders who led that on the field and just sort of actually called that out and said, hey, we knew they were going to score points. We knew this was going to happen. Let's turn this around and play the way we know we can. And they went out and did that. So, it wasn't the start that we had planned on, but once they got there, we showcased what we could do.
Yeah, I thought the Chiefs prop Tanya Kalunavali was going to win the game on her own for the first 5 minutes. She was pretty fired up. What a player she is.
No, she's certainly hit her stride in this super comp, and she's showed some really awesome stuff.
So what did you? Well, you must have believed going into that final that you could reverse the round robin score and win the game. How did the girls obviously bought into that and believed that?
Yeah, like we talked a lot during the week about just running our own race. We were lucky enough to have a guest speaker chat to us from she's a female that's part of the team of Vaya and Godzone, and she talked about never allowing herself the luxury of thinking of the finish line. She just needed to be where her feet were and stay focused and stay in the race and not worry too much about what anyone else was doing. So that was a big piece around what we were looking to do on Saturday. And sports can only have one winner and one loser, and we were able to do enough to be the winner on that day.
It was just like the World Cup final, just another wonderful advertisement for the women's game. I mean, 33-31, a missed kick right at the end that could have gone the other way. And I just mentioned some of the players I thought who shone on that. Renee Holmes, your fullback, brilliant. 2 tries, 23 points. I thought your midfield of Grace Brooker and Amy Duplessis were really good. And your forwards, among others, Amy Rule, Alana Bremner, Cindy Bellis, Kendra Reynolds, Lucy Jenkins. These ladies, they're fine athletes.
Yeah, they are. And, I think Alana's just one example in there that you mentioned where she's played in multiple positions this year, played out of position, have done what the team needed, and a lot of the work that she does, like many of those other names, even some of the ones that that didn't get mentioned, like the work they do under the radar. I think we don't have they are superstars, but we've also just got we've got a superstar team, and they all know that that's more important than showcasing what they do as an individual. So it's pretty special too to be part of.
Yeah, being Christchurch born, I was jumping up and down pretty drastically in the last 10 minutes there, biting my nails, what was left of them. And now, speaking about the standard of rugby, did you find that it improved from last season?
Yeah, 100% it has, and I think part of that was the ability to actually play out a full competition. The season before, like on a 4 or 5 day turnaround, a lot of the time by the end of the competition, our athletes were not in a space where they could even train. So it was always going to be better, because I think the union allowed that with making the competition longer. And yeah, I'm just excited for what it will look like if we can allow these athletes to be full time. And with a full pre-season, because where it got to by that final, imagine what that would have looked like in another 3 weeks' time.
Exactly. Yeah, I spoke to Crystal Cower from the Chiefs Manawa side a few times during the competition. She said the same, that, and also the big challenge, of course, is a lot of the ladies are working during the early part of the week and then switching over to rugby full time for the latter part. That in itself is a challenge.
Yeah, it's massively draining, and I think you can send things out, and you can they're doing their video analysis and their review and other bits and pieces, but like I say, it's hard to be in two minds and not be able to have rugby as its sole focus in the week.
Yeah. Do you feel as though you're getting good support, enough support from the New Zealand Rugby Union getting behind the women's game?
Yeah, look, I think there's like time will tell on that answer, I guess, because they've put a lot of new things in place, and I think very much we'll see a change in that space. And yeah, huge hopes that they'll make Opiki full time.
I think, I think one of the great things about the women's game too is that the World Cup brought a lot of new supporters to the game, not traditional rugby supporters, and certainly convinced a lot of old people like me that how good a game it was. I already knew, but some of my friends took a bit of convincing, but they're convinced now.
Yeah, I think, for a long time we looked at the demographic and tried to think about female rugby fans being a percentage of those that watch the men's game, and that was something that was really cool about the World Cup, is that yes, some of those will be the same fans and the same people that connect with the game, but there's also another world out there that that the women's game can capture, and I think part of that is what you talked about before, when in the women's game and women's teams being really great at showcasing who their people are, because sometimes it's not about the game. You fall in love with the people and you want to watch whatever it is they're doing. So I think recognising that there's a different fan base will be something that I'd like to see them capture and build on too.
It's fantastic. Well, the Black Ferns sevens teams are certainly keeping the momentum going for women's rugby. A wonderful performance by them in Hong Kong.
Yeah, they're unstoppable at the moment, eh?
Are they ever? Do you expect any of the ladies from that team to transition back to 15s for the series coming up this season?
Yeah, I'm not sure around that space. I think it's a continual conversation between head coaches in there, and looking at what's best for those two teams and what's best for the athletes. But yeah, I'd love to see Georgia Miller back in the 15s game at some point.
Oh, she's a weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a fantastic player. So young too. I can't believe how young she is.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So Alan Bunting's come in now as head coach, and is there you don't expect too much of a change in the way the Black Ferns will play? As you said before, you're looking to develop on what you're already producing.
Yeah, no, I think that he'll have to come on with a vision that is his own, and it'll be the same with the new coaches that come into that space too. So I think there's definitely things that they'll want to keep and want to grow on, and but there'll be pieces where they'll have to put their own stamp on that as well.
Yeah. Well, Whitney, wonderful to speak to you. And what about your life? I mean, has your life changed? You're doing interviews now, obviously, which you might not have been doing before, but how much has your life changed since the World Cup?
Yeah, I've probably didn't. I've come into being full time in coaching rugby, and in the women's space, it probably wasn't something that I saw myself doing this early, but it's super exciting, and I love it. I get to rip the duvet off and get excited about coming to work every day. And as much as there's lots in teaching and lots about the school that I worked at that I do really miss, it's a cool opportunity to be able to do this, and super grateful.
See the world too down the track, no doubt. Yeah, exactly. Winnie, it's been wonderful to have you on the show. Really appreciate it, and congratulations again for all you've achieved so far. It's been phenomenal, and myself and my friends are certainly will be turning up in Brisbane to watch the mighty Black Ferns later in June. I think they come over here, so can't wait to watch them in action live.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers, pleasure.